What the hell? The Charge Blade in Monster Hunter World. It has the potential to be the most overpowered weapon in solo play for sure, but given you're able to fully control it, since it requires you to know more than just the basic controls and the best combos. This video is going to tell a story about advanced charge blading. Before we start, let me point out that Charge Blade is also the most complicated out of the 14 weapon types. So to those of you who are new to this, just take your time, go to the training area and be patient. Memorize the basic controls first. I will not be covering every single move since Arekkz Gaming already made a pretty good video showing all the basics, which is linked down below this video. Once you got the basics straight, watch my video again, which will help you to then further master the weapon. These are the 4 steps to reach top of the line Charge Blade gameplay. In my tutorial, the Amped Element Discharge is going to be named Super, and the Super Amped Element Discharge is going to be named Ultra. Let me do this to make things easier for both of us, for me and for you. Okay, hang on guys, this is going to be a lot of information coming your way. Monster Hunter World introduced a couple new moves, one of which is the Sliding Slash, which opens up a whole new chapter in charge blading, which is mobility. The Sliding Slash is super useful if we take a closer look actually. You can perform it after a handful of moves. Those of you who played a Charge Blade in for Ultimate might find this move irritating at first. You're likely to trigger it unintentionally at times if you touch the control sticks while hitting circle on PlayStation or B on Xbox. However, once you know how to utilize it purposely, you will find it very supportive to close distances to monsters, evade attacks, or most of the time to reposition yourself so that Ultra Burst will hit more precisely. Here I utilize this new way of mobility to improve positioning to get a precise Ultra Burst. This leads to files hitting the monster's head more consistently, which leads to more KO damage. Usually you want to use the backward sliding slash, but sometimes when a monster staggers away from you, you can use the forward slash to get back to the main weak point. There's also a backwards evasion possible, which is quite useful if you are already in axe mode and if you need to build up some distance. However, I don't recommend using it in Sword and Shield mode. You will need one additional weak slash, which makes the combo to pull off an Ultra a bit longer. The Sliding Slash can also be one of the fastest ways to escape out of dangerous situations like acid. You can also escape monster attacks like evading Rathalos Tail Swipe, and it chains perfectly into your combos. I really like it. Back evasion. Reload, backwards evasion again, bam, bam, and Ultra Burst. This is how you get the damage, guys. Boom! Look at this. Sick. Here I use the Sliding Slash to get some distance, then guard point the fire attack to go into an Ultra. I will be covering guard points in full detail later in this video, so stay tuned. So now that we talked about positioning and mobility, let's talk about timing and anticipation next. As I said earlier, Charge Blade shows its true potential in solo hunts. Timing and anticipation is why. Let me explain the wording for those of you who don't know. Anticipation essentially means you know what's coming and can behave accordingly. You do that by reading a monster's animation before it strikes. A good example showing a very easy to see through anticipation is Diablo's. Here you can see Diablo's animation before its double horn swing. This attack gives you plenty of time to anticipate and react, since you can see Diablo's as he literally moves backwards to be able to swing towards you with full power and full speed. When you hunt solo, you will be in focus most of the time and the center of attention for whatever monster you're facing. The monster will always turn towards you and move to whatever position you are. You as the player have almost full control of how the monster behaves within its move patterns. Hunting with a Palico does shift the share of attention a little bit, but you still kind of have control, because Capcom also, they managed to implement the Palicos really nicely this time around, and even for speedruns they're not completely useless this time. Now, hunting with multiple people, however, is another story. If you're hunting in a party with 3 other players, for instance, you that was the center of attention before all of a sudden become a 25% target for the monsters that you're hunting, which means you have less influence on how the monster behaves, and then you can thus no longer tell what the monster is going to do next. You can't guard point as frequently anymore, and you can also not tell as much, is the monster gonna turn towards me now, or should I use my ultra, or am I gonna whiff due to the monster turning towards another player? And also, monsters, what happens a lot, they stagger away from other players, which leads to you whiffing, and sometimes it's very frustrating, especially with weapons like Charge Blade or Greatsword, because these weapons are slow, but they hit hard, and if you whiff, then you're gonna lose a lot of damage. Now, I'd like to show you something about stagger times in terms of when to charge and when to ultra burst. Nergigante is likely to trip from a lot of things. When you hit the arms or break parts, or when you knock him out with KO damage. Here I was trying to make use of a time window when Nergigante was unable to move to charge my files to then hit the ultra as soon as this down on the ground animation stops and Nergigante can move again. So, because only once he's fully able to move again, he then could theoretically trip from another ultra. So we want to hit as soon as Nergigante can move, but before he actually does, in order to prevent to get hit, you know. And in this case, I got lucky with breaking parts and KO and everything, and managed to do quite some damage in a short amount of time, just keeping staggered times in mind. But yeah, you can use this anyway pretty nicely with the Charge Blade, because you need to charge your files between ultras anyways, which works nicely in this case. Please. Thanks, Bagel. If you want to master the Charge Blade, then you absolutely need to know how to guard point. Guard pointing essentially means guarding a monster's attack with precise timing to be able to have multiple options to counter directly after it. You can follow it with a super or ultra, or you can reload after it. And guard pointing also charges your files. If you're new to this, go practice it in the training room. You're gonna have that small barrel bump there, which lets you easily try out guard pointing. And once you know the basics there, then go practice on Diablos because of its easy to anticipate animations. But why would you want to guard point if you could just hold down R2 to guard and then normally attack afterwards, you might ask yourself? Well, let me show you a few examples why guard pointing is not only super useful, but one of the most rewarding things to pull off when you do it correctly and manage to hit a super or ultra directly after it. It just feels amazing. As I said, Diablos can be guard pointed nicely with most of its attacks. When Diablos is underground, you always have the same timing to react with a guard point, except for one small difference. Diablos will be faster in rage mode, so you should always keep that in mind if Diablos is rage or unrage, to be able to then react with the precise timing. And that applies to most of the monsters. Let's say it like this: most of the monsters are faster when they are enraged. Some attacks cannot be guard pointed. One example are monster moves that get you pinned. What, but I did guard though! I guard pointed this one! The fuck? Then there are quite a few strong monster attacks that cause high recoil when guarding, so you might need guard plus skill additionally to your red shield to reduce the recoil. Because if recoil is too high, then guard points won't work. Lastly, there's only a couple moves that simply cannot be guard pointed, and that's what the skill guard up is worth considering for, since it lets you guard or guard point otherwise unguardable attacks. Improving your guard point skills highly depends on your knowledge about one specific monster. You want to anticipate animations before monsters scream to use these as guard point openings. Some screams can be guard pointed with a red shield, some need guard plus to reduce recoil, ironically to be honest, but yeah. But be aware, some monster attacks have a short cooldown animation, making it sometimes not the best idea to directly go into a super or ultra after guard pointing, since you'll get hit most likely. But that again depends on your knowledge about the monster, so you usually know when is the time for you to strike back and when is the time to just keep playing defensive. Now, since you watched this tutorial all the way up to this point, you should have most of the knowledge about advanced charge blading by now. However, there's one more major topic that we need to talk about. Let's talk about armor skills and damage optimization, which is super important if you want to optimize your damage output and want to deal just in general a lot of damage. First off, let me point out that everyone should feel free to experiment with whatever skills he prefers and try all kinds of things as long as it's fun, guys, okay? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. I'm just here to talk about DPS optimization and what skills to use for the best possible damage output. It's not something you have to do. Alright, with that said, as we talk, I'm gonna list most of the important skills here on screen while I'm trying to show and explain why they are important and what changes regarding your damage output. Artillery is one of your must-have skills for charge blading. Each artillery level increases file damage by 10%. This skill is fairly easy to get. You can either go for a artillery charm, which gives you +3, or you go for some early high rank armor parts like Paolumu guards, for example. And before anyone is asking, the skills Bombardier and Heavy Artillery do not affect normal charge blade damage. Now we got Capacity Boost. It grants you 1 additional file. That's how you get 6 instead of 5 files, and it's especially good in Monster Hunter World as you go for Ultra Burst most of the time for the best DPS, and that means you'll get additional 20% file damage with Ultras where all the files hit your target. Another very cool side effect is additional 30 seconds red shield charge time. Because when you charge your shield with 6 files instead of 5, then you'll have the red shield for full 3 minutes. And that's the second thing that makes it so good in this game, since in the previous Monster Hunter games you would lose the red shield from using an Ultra Burst anyway, and here it only expires through time, so it makes full use of the 3 minutes extended duration. Attack up as high as you can is always good for Charge Blade rather than going for Critical Eye or Handicraft, for instance, since attack affects both your blade damage and your file damage. Unlike Critical Eye or Handicraft, which does not apply to files, Critical Eye and Handicraft only work with your blade or axe damage because files cannot be a critical hit. They do not scale with different sharpness colors as well, so it solely depends on the pure attack value of your charge blade how much damage files deal. And that's also the reason why so many people are playing with the Diablo's charge blade, because it's got a lot of raw damage and relatively low sharpness and also negative affinity, which does not matter that much compared to the high raw damage. Non-elemental boost is a new skill in Monster Hunter World, which powers up non-elemental weapons you have equipped. It can only be activated with the high rank Diablos and Diablos Nero set bonuses, or by equipping the Elementalist Jewel 2 decoration. To activate non-elemental boost via Diablos Mastery, you must wear any combination of 4 pieces of high rank Diablos or Diablos Nero. So I really recommend to go for the decoration once you have one of these, because if you go for 4 pieces of Diablo's high rank gear, then it's gonna be a lot harder to get all the other skills that you want to use. The music. Hold on. Okay. Now there are some more skills we can use. Consider these as optional ones. Use them if you have enough decorations or good enough gear to use in addition to the previously mentioned armor skills, which are more important than the ones I'm gonna talk about now. While it's true that critical hits don't affect file damage, I can still safely say that Weakness Exploit is a really useful skill, even for Charge Blade. I would always go for +3 if possible. It does not affect files, it does only affect blade damage, but still Weakness Exploit, if you know where the weak points are, which you usually know by just looking at the damage numbers and feeling the hit lag, it equals 12.5% more damage if you hit weak points, which is huge. Well, Challenger has a new name, Agitator, and it's probably because we have the Challenger mantle now and they didn't want to confuse everyone. So yeah, well anyways, Agitator can be used as well, mainly because of the extra amount of attack during the time when monsters are enraged. And because of the linear skill progression of this skill between level 1 and 5, you get always the same steps up in terms of damage. You can easily use it below level 5, which is always nice. Each level of Slugger increases KO damage by 10%. It's not going to work on elemental file charge blades, but as long as you're playing with one that has impact files, go for it to get up to 30% more KO damage. And as I mentioned before, some attacks cause high recall when you guard even with a red shield, and that's what you can use guard plus for. And some attacks can't be guarded at all, and that's what you're going to want to use guard up for. And you can use these skills to be able to guard point everything. You mainly use these if you farm a specific monster where you know it's going to use a lot of those unguard pointable attacks. So lastly, I want to talk about the Diablo's Charge Blade, which I use all the time. I mainly like it because it's just good for KOing monsters. In solo play, it deals a lot of damage. It's got a high raw attack, which means it's going to affect not only the blade or sword damage you deal, but also it's going to affect the files. And then we have some negative affinity, but that's basically cancelled out due to weakness exploit. And yeah, and then we also have pretty decent blue sharpness. But yeah, we can easily also play, once it goes down to green, no need to worry. We don't need to sharpen instantly, except if the monster leaves the area. It's a pretty nice charge, but it's not too hard to get. You need a couple Black Diablo's horns. You need, I think, one Vibrant Gem and some Diablo's parts, and I think a couple Nergigante parts that aren't as hard to get. So I would definitely recommend you guys to try this one out if you like it, because it's probably the best charge blade in this game at this point where I'm making this video. It's a good choice, guys. Okay, let's go, guys. Full upgrade. Okay, this is the first one. Bone Strong Arm 2. Boom. Bone Strong Arm 3. I hope this was the right one. Oh yeah, it was. Bone Strong Arm, Hard Bone Strong Arm 1. Yeah, this must have some work to do. Diablo's Wall 1. Yo, it's got horns. Diablo's Wall 2. This is mass production, guys. Diablo's Tyrannus 1. We're doing mass production right here. What? Okay, we can't craft this one though, so enough mass production for now. Oh, this looks so it's sick, guys. Look at this. So I was thinking about talking about damage calculation as well, and about hidden multipliers and all that stuff, but yeah, basically why you see those damage numbers. But this would extend this video even more, and I don't even know if you're interested about that, since I mean we see the damage numbers anyway. But yeah, if you want to know how damage works, how the damage numbers work in this game, I don't know, leave a like or comment here or anything, so I know you guys want to see it. Alright, oh my god, I'm finally done with this charge plate tutorial. This was insane, man. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna make some bagel juice and I'll catch you guys on the next video. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet to this channel, there are gonna be a lot dope Monster Hunter videos dropping soon, so make sure to stay tuned, guys. With that said, my name is Chris, I'm from Team Darkside, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.
You want got bombs?
No.
Okay, so I'm putting my mantle on first. Oh, no. Fuck.
Fucking hit it! Tell her to fucking hit it! Jesus! You missed! All according to...
It's alright.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Nope,
shit.
that's not her.
These are the moments I live for.